Hello, and we'd like to welcome you back to Deep Images. We are continuing our Halloween 2024 fair with zombies. With me on this, it will be a full house of contributors: Nick Mays, Bill Mulligan, Tim Tolbert, Briggy Williams, Justin Cotton, and very special guest Yvette Zahn, star of Island of the Living Dead and Zombies the Beginning, both by Bruno Mattei. So please join us and let's get into it. Bill, do you need to depart?
Pretty soon.
Do you want to do your movie or do you want to?
Sure. I'll be
Bill,
quick about it. It's a great movie. Um,
hey Bill.
this is right after Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead was a huge hit, and it was a massive hit in Italy. And the Italian uh, exploitation filmmakers are not shy about jumping on the bandwagon, even if they don't have the ability to maybe pull it off. So when The Road Warrior was a massive hit everywhere in the world, we got lots and lots of Road Warrior-esque movies from Italy. They were not patch on the ass of Road Warrior, but they were fun. But now zombies, anyone can do a zombie movie. I've done a bunch of them. Um, Dawn of the Dead was called Zombie in Italy. So a year later, Lucio Fulci came out with Zombie 2, which when it was released in America was known as just plain old Zombie because there hadn't been a Zombie 1. So it became Zombie 1. But this does sometimes get a little confusing. And man, once again, said usually it's a bad sign when a movie has multiple titles, but I guess this one, for whatever reason, Island of the Living Dead, Zombie Flesh Eaters. I've seen it under that one. The Dead Walk Among Us, Voodoo,
Voodoo, yeah.
and Nightmare Island. Take your pick. You could have seen the same movie over and over again. This is a phenomenal zombie movie, and really showed. I think Dawn of the Dead showed the first zombie apocalypse film, but it was Zombie that showed anyone could make a zombie apocalypse film. And we all have. Every filmmaker I know has at some point done a zombie apocalypse, but it's seldom as good as this. This one also unusual for zombies. This is not scientific. This is strictly something's gone wrong. There's some kind of supernatural element. Takes place on an island. Opens up in New York, where a morbidly obese zombie is shot and falls off the boat, and that alerts people that something weird's going on an island somewhere. So a doctor and his girlfriend decide to go out and investigate. Don't worry, we'll get back to that zombie on the boat. They get to the island, and next thing you know, these incredibly slow moving, rotted zombies, once again from the same makeup artist from the last one. These things are great. They're rotted. They're like conquistadors. They've been sitting in that sand for a long time. Really, they're in much better shape than they should be, but it ain't great. They've got worms crawling out of their eye holes, and their skin is just all just they're in bad shape, and they are slow, very slow, but not too slow if they don't catch these folks. In some ways, I prefer this to Dawn of the Dead. If blasphemy, I know, but if you said right now you got to watch a movie for the next 2 hours, maybe it's because I've seen Dawn so many times. But I think I've probably seen Zombie about as many times. And I don't know, there's something has happened to me in the last few years where I've really come to appreciate Fulci
Oh,
more than I did before.
yeah.
He does have his idiosyncrasies. He sure loves that zoom. He does lots of scenes where people are just sort of close-ups of them, and calling out people's names. This is not exactly great on dialogue,
But
but
his
boy,
movies are well crafted now that we
they
see
are
how
very well
he's
crafted.
ended.
He was underrated as an artist.
Yeah.
This doesn't have the glorious comic book coloring of City of the Living Dead and some of the others in his zombie, his weird, almost Lovecraftian view of the world.
Mhm.
But it's a gorgeous film. It's got one incredibly dopey scene where a zombie fights a shark. That is not filmed by Fulci. That was done without his participation, and
Hmm.
it's it's noticeably of lesser quality. On the other hand, it's a zombie versus a shark. I mean, okay, if you don't love just that premise, I
A
don't know what
brave
to say.
stunt person.
Yeah, the shark.
Does a zombie bite the shark and then the shark
Yes, the
swims in?
zombie
Oh my
wins.
God.
I think
No.
I think the shark was seriously drugged.
Yeah.
The shark.
Ah.
It's kind of like watching Bela Lugosi pretend to be fighting with an octopus. Um,
But this was a real shark.
it was a real shark,
No.
possibly a real zombie. I don't know. Life is cheap in these places.
Maybe after the shark got.
It's also got a scene that
I'm very gullible. Sorry.
it's got a scene that goes down
Mhm.
in history where and it's just Fulci at his best. Fulci just loves eyes. Well, he loves doing things to eyes. And this has got a scene where a woman foolishly is investigating a strange sound. Why would you do this? And sure enough, rotted hands come bursting through the window, grab onto her, and slowly pull her head towards a large splinter that comes ever closer to the camera, ever closer. We see the close up of her eye. She's scared. I'm scared. We're all scared. Is he going to show this? It's going to cut away, right? Oh, no, it doesn't cut away. We see about 6 inches of splinter go into an eye.
Yeah.
And it's fairly realistic. I mean, it's as close to real as I ever want to see. I got a thing about splinters going in eyes. It's an unpleasant thought. It just doesn't cut away. Once again, we're in a whole new world now. None of this fade to black and hearing screams. We're gonna rub it in your face, literally. It ends up with a pretty good fight between the slow, very slow moving zombies and our heroes with their Molotov cocktails and guns. In all these movies, no one ever figures out. Just shoot them in the head. It's one of the things that makes Fulci
Don't they
films
figure it
kind of
out in this
painful.
movie? I'm sure some of them do.
Well, they do, but then the next zombie that comes along, they do the exact same thing. They shoot him in the left shoulder, shoot him in the right
That's what happens
shoulder.
in Hell of the Living Dead because
Yeah,
our crazy guy Zorano or whatever figures it out. Shoot him in the head, and he tells the other SWAT guys, but then they forget, and then he gets
yeah,
crazy and forgets.
yeah. It's like,
Yeah, it's kind of changes from scene to scene.
first of all, if you have a gun, if you're lucky enough to have a gun, and there's a monster, that just seems like seems like the thing you would do.
A no-brainer?
Yeah, a no-brainer, literally a no-brainer. Because if shooting him in the head doesn't work, shooting him anywhere else is not going to work either.
Maybe
So I mean,
Yeah.
go for the odds, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway,
Mm.
man, this is fun. And then it ends. Spoiler alert: we go back, we cut back. Our heroes, the few survivors that are left, are on a boat back to New York, and we start hearing radio DJ, and he's like, "Oh my God, they're outside the door!" And we cut to just a marvelous shot of the George Washington Bridge, which I've gone over at least 1,000 times in my life.
I've only been
And
over.
there are sections on the side you can walk on. They hired as many people as they could to play zombies, walk across the bridge, shoot it fast before the cops showed up, and then get the heck out of Dodge. It's great.
The Larry Cohen
I would have
stuff.
loved to. All these cars are on the bridge, like wondering why are there like zombies walking on the side here as Lucio's up there cranking his camera with the zoom lens, listening for the sirens before they get taken off to jail. So apparently that big zombie that got shot off the boat started things, and now we're into the apocalypse. And
And
the
now
end.
they're coming to infect New York. I'm glad I got
They're
out of
coming
there
to
when I
infect New
did.
York. Yep.
Yeah.
No stopping them now. So yeah, this is a lot of fun, and it's an unusual film in that it's kind of using the voodoo idea, but also if you get bit by a zombie, you will become a zombie. They're very slow.
Mm.
They're very rotted. There's no personality to them. It's just a lot of fun. This one I think better than most manages to do the horror of the slow moving monstrous zombie with the action adventure of our small cast of characters trying to protect themselves against this onslaught. It has that Fulci dreamlike quality.
It has some beautiful lighting.
Yeah, and
There's
it's just
nobody.
really well done. It was not terribly well regarded when it came out.
It
No
did make
critic
a lot of
no
money,
critic
though.
of the time. It
It-
made a ton, but
yeah,
no critic of the time was going to say nice things about a movie where a
yeah.
woman gets an 8-inch splinter through her eye. I mean, that's just cheesy, sleazy stuff now. But
I even heard from people who were into Romero that who were just, I guess, less enlightened, that it was just terrible. I mean, for years I was told by
mhm,
horror fans, avoid Fulci, he's trash. And so when I first
yeah,
watched Zombie, I thought it was better than I was expecting, but I still wasn't sold. But I saw a really awful pan and scanned print. And then when I started exploring Fulci, I'm like, these people are crazy. Conversely, here in Charlotte, there was a drive-in called Queen Park, and all four of Fulci's zombie movies played here, albeit Beyond was called Seven Doors of Death. And of
right.
course, they were all a little cut. Zombie, there was the least cut. And I've talked to people my age and older, like Tim McLean, friend of the show. They saw them all in the theater, and they said everyone went crazy. And I used to live in that's the neighborhood I moved from to in May. I lived off this place called South Boulevard, and so that neighborhood is like extremely, multiracial, and it still is. But this is like in the 80s. So the early 80s, most of the people in the theater were black, and they loved Fulci. I mean, they
Yeah.
just went crazy. And my friends, they saw it, they were like, I'll never forget just how much joy these people had screaming at these extremely gory set pieces. Kind of became legendary in Charlotte, and of course I didn't hear about it until years later because
Yeah.
we didn't have an internet back then. If you didn't follow every fanzine, you didn't have any clue.
So the black people weren't screaming like, "Don't go in there! Don't
Oh,
go
they
in there!
totally
Don't
were.
go
According to
in!
what I was told, they were screaming
Don't go in
everything. They
there!
were just static,
No, no."
which is wonderful because audiences in Charlotte now, they're like zombies. I mean, it's almost impossible
Yeah,
to
they're on
get
their
them to
phones.
react to anything
That's
whatsoever.
hysterical. Hey,
Where it's
Bill, I want to ask you a question
Sure,
though.
dude.
I want to ask you about the zombies, the slow-moving zombies, the ones that are, but I want to understand why is it then that if they're decaying, they have like all this superhuman strength? Like,
Oh,
riddle
it
me
makes
that.
no, literally no sense. I could go on forever about the illogic of zombies. They're so slow and weak and stupid that they can barely open a door.
Right.
But if they get their hands on you, they will rip your arm literally off your body. Now, try that. Try that. Find a friend who's willing to let you try and try to pull their arm off their body without twisting it or doing any cheating. Just you can't do it
Right.
unless you are like, just a weightlifter or
You're
something.
jacked. You're
You
totally
can
jacked.
barely even make it hurt.
how do you
But no, they just
how do you
pull
take
you
your
right
fingers
open.
and punch into someone's stomach and penetrate all the way to their bowels and rip them open just with your
Mm,
fingertips?
And these guys,
mhm.
like I said, these are conquistadors. They have been buried for 200 years. There should not be. It's like being chased by a skeleton. You're running away, but at
Mhm.
some point you got to be thinking, wait a minute, how could a skeleton possibly chase me? He
Yes.
doesn't have any
Yeah.
muscles. He's just a pile
Right.
of bones.
I think
Yeah.
whether they say it or not in these movies, maybe not the Romero movies, or maybe because he leaves it mysterious, there has to be a supernatural animating
Oh yeah,
element.
yeah, yeah.
At least in Zombie, there is the distinct possibility of that since he's
Right.
more, you know.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
So
as
who
a
knows?
bonus, I was going to actually do my review on Thriller, just the Michael
I have
Jackson.
argued. We once did a
Yes.
thing. We did a panel on the most influential zombie movies. Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the
Oh,
Dead,
yes.
obviously. And I made the
Yes.
argument, Return of the Living Dead, and I said, here's a ringer, Thriller.
Yes.
And people are like,
Yes. Great
First of all,
minds.
it's not a
Wow.
movie. Okay, well, second of all, shut up.
Well, it's
And
like a
third of
short
all,
film.
You had
um,
to be there. It was almost like a
yeah,
movie. It was quite long,
if you
I
say to
thought.
Like
people,
13 minutes.
do a zombie, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be doing da 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 like that. That was super influential. It was
Yeah.
and
Well, you
really
you have
well
to
done.
remember, I mean, Michael Jackson was beyond insanely wealthy, so he could call up like Bill Landis or I mean, or any of these guys, Joe
Mhm.
Dante or whoever,
Mhm.
Rick
I think
Baker,
Rick
who,
Baker did
yeah, he could call
the
these guys
makeup.
and be like, "Hi, can you do some really pro work for me?" And they're
Now,
like, "Who the hell
unfortunately,
is
yeah,
this?" It's Michael Jackson. Come on. Yeah.
unfortunately, because he was Michael Jackson, he also could say and make the werewolf look like a cat, and nobody could say, Michael, that's a bad idea. But okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever. At least when he looked like a zombie, he was a great zombie. It was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
one last thing
Yeah.
about the movie Zombie. Special attention to the score
Oh, yeah.
by
Fabio.
Fabio Frizzi. And man, it is great. And a lot of these really marginal movies sometimes have phenomenal scores. I mean, I think Cannibal Holocaust has one of the prettiest scores
My favorite.
ever for a movie called Cannibal Holocaust. It's, you know, you're in trouble when that title comes on. You're like, well, this doesn't sound good. And then this beautiful, actually gorgeous theme kind of lulls you into a false sense of things are not going to be as bad as they are about to be.
Because Italians didn't have irony like American and British. To them,
Mm.
if it was a work of art, it could have beautiful music. It didn't matter what the imagery was. It was a work of art. It was beautiful music. I mean, and there was no irony to it. Like Americans would watch it and be like, "That's incongruous." It's like it's not incongruous to Italians. You watch enough
Mm.
Jallos, and you're like, "No, there's nothing
Yeah.
incongruous whatsoever." So it's like you had to retrain your mind culturally, and then you get it, and you go, "Wow, okay." In a way, they're a bit more advanced than we were in the way they think about these things because why not?
Mm.
You know, like Riz Ortolani. I mean, he sees the rushes for Cannibal Holocaust, and he's just like, "I'm going to make this beautiful music." But then,
Yeah.
when conversely, then when the adulterous theme comes in, he makes the most evil music you've heard in your
Mhm.
entire life.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it really, you don't know where you're going in, but I love the theme to Zombie.
Me
It's
too.
really
It
really
was
well done.
scary on the commercials. I saw a
Hmm.
commercial late at
I
night. I
mean,
was watching Saturday Night Live, and they did the weird commercial where they go the Z and O, and it's going this way, and you hear the ooh, and then
mhm.
they flash the worm-eyed zombie real fast, and then it says absolutely no one under 18 will be admitted because of
Yeah.
scenes of extreme graphic violence.
Oh yeah, just try to keep me away.
I
This
was
movie was
terrified.
brilliantly marketed.
Oh
The
God.
trailer's great. Poster, you couldn't have a simpler poster, a close up of a maggoty, worm-eyed zombie and the words, "We are going to eat you." No lies are spoken here. I mean, this movie was exactly what it needed to be, and they reaped the rewards. And then people have been making movies called Zombie 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ever since,
Yes,
trying
Justin
to,
told us about four.
yeah, trying to catch
Yeah,
that again. This
yeah,
is the
Two
one
is
that really
better than four,
did it well.
Justin.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. It was watchable, but
So
yeah.
lots of fun. Hey guys, I got to run off because I better get some sleep. I got to get up and
All right,
my
man.
makeup kit together and everything. But have fun talking about zombies. Hopefully, I'll have some fun making some zombies tomorrow. But I guess time will tell.
Good seeing you, Val.
Thank you, Bill.
Great
See you,
seeing
Bill.
you all. Nice
Okay.
meeting you,
Bye-bye.
Miss Yvette.
Night.
Thank you for all
Nice
your
to
work.
meet you.
You take care,
Bye.
everybody.
Take care, buddy. I uh I only have one more to review and then we can wrap it up
Mhm.
if y'all can bear with me a few minutes.
Sure. I mean, if my internet hangs out, my phone doesn't die, and all the
I
other
know if I mean the world could cease to spin any
technical
minute.
issues. I mean, if I
It
have
could
more
all
issues, I'll.
I mean, yeah. A comet could sweep over and wipe out everybody and the living people are zombie. Oh no, I'm not gonna review that movie this
You
time.
would invite me over here on the night of the comet.
I almost did review Night of the Comet this time, but I saved. I'm going to save it. I love that movie. Um, no, this is one that's pretty different. So this is a Japanese one called Stacy from 2001. STACY, like a
Mhm.
a girl's name in England or America, but it's a term, and so and you know how Japanese names will sound out the syllables of English names. Um, so this is kind of like that. In Japanese, the name is Satoshi. You know, it's like a broken up Stacy. And so the Satoshis or the Stacys, I did see it in Japanese with subtitle. Um, Basically, there's like this strange plague, and all these, uh, all girls between the ages of 15 and 17, and you don't know when, but when they're going to hit that age range, uh, they go into this extreme bliss. They're just like happy, screaming, giggling, blissed out. And that's called near death happiness because then they die. They immediately come back as zombies. And yeah, of course, they eat other people and, all your usual stuff. They're more like the zombies, though, in Return of the Living Dead because you can't kill them by shooting them in the head. Like in Return of the Living Dead, they can't destroy them. All the matter is living. Like in the beginning of Return of the Living Dead, which I think is brilliant, where it brings back all life forms and they can't be destroyed, like the dogs that have been cut in half and the labs start barking. That is one of my favorite, most funniest scenes in any movie. They just, you hear them barking and you're like, what the hell? And all the butterflies that are pinned start moving. And so, they have to cremate them in Return of the Living Dead. So in this movie, their answer is, well, first of all, since they're teenagers, so they're still under the, jurisdiction of their parents. So the government offers them a choice. You kill them, as you see fit, but you got to make sure they're dead. I mean, you got to make sure they're completely annihilated. And there's a term for that. It's called repeat kill, which sort of means, yeah, you're killing them for the second time, but not just that. You're over killing them to the point where they even scientifically quantify it. If you cut them into 165 pieces, the pieces will finally cease to function. So, I don't know why they didn't cremate them, but whatever. That's a different movie. But so they get these squads who, for the people who can't do this to their own children, the government supplies these people authorized to destroy them and round them up and try to do this to them. And this movie has a lot of inside jokes about other horror and zombie movies. So the squads are called the Romero Repeat Kill Squad, and the Romeros go around and they basically they go there and they usually they come in, they shoot them a little, disable them a little, and then they start hacking them up, and then they basically take all the pieces that are still moving in the bags to the labs to where they can cut them all the way up into nothingness. And there's this crazy scientist who is very based on this crazy scientist in the Day of the Dead. He's to the point where you can tell he's gone insane pretty much from all this just gore and just constant. And he thinks, I've got to find the secret. I've got to find, and so he has his little lab and he has some assistants and they work in conjunction with the military. And so it has a couple of recurring characters and then two main characters. The recurring characters, you have this boy, I forgot his name, but his sister Kana is one of the first Stacy's. She's one of the first dead ones that comes back to life. Like in the beginning, these kids find this teenage girl and she's in her schoolgirl uniform. Like, this is really exploiting that image in Japanese movies on purpose. And they're like, oh, is she asleep? And then she wakes up, quote unquote, and eats the kids. You don't really see her eating the kids. Now later on you see plenty of eating people, but in the beginning they kind of make it a little more like shocking and off camera. But so this guy is really scarred because Kana is his sister. They round her up and they do that thing with her, and he made friends with this girl named Momo. And Momo and him, it's kind of a romantic undercurrent, but she's like, we're going to be best friends, we're going to be pen pals because I'm going to go to college in a year. And she's 17. And so 17. So the latest they turn into the Stacys are like, closest to their 18th birthday as possible. That's the latest. The earliest will be when they're like 15 and a half. But basically they're going to start exhibiting some kind of symptoms, which is mainly that mania I described. So the media and the scientists call it, NDH, near death happiness. There's a bunch of these terms they create for this movie. It has its own kind of lore. And another thing that the zombies have is this thing called, I'm going to make sure I say this correctly, BTP, which means butterfly twinkle powder. They exude this energy, especially when they're like linked together, and it's pretty cool effect. And that's also deliberate. I mean, I read a lot about this movie. A lot of this stuff is parodying like memes that are in Japanese genre movies, and
they sound like the Wonder Twins to me. I don't know.
Well, they're kind of like parodying what they call the magical girl in Japanese movies. She's like a schoolgirl. She's always giggling. She's always happy, and so that's what this whole movie is. It's kind of like parodying it, and so of course this twinkle, they have it literally, like this energy, which of course has never been done in a zombie movie before, and a lot of people didn't like the way they tried to explain this as it went on, but I went with it because basically it was one of those movies anything could happen, and pretty much does happen, and I love those kind of movies. And so the next element is there's this puppeteer named Shibakawa, and he's a very kind of He's probably about 30 to 35. A lot of the reviews of the movie describe him as much older because of the fact that one of the teenage girls befriends him. And, again, we get into this, everybody's a pedophile thing in America. But, you know, she does befriend him, and she's 17. Her name's Aiko, and it means the character in it means eternity. And everything has like a double meaning in this one. And so she befriends him. She just comes out of the blue. You don't know why she selects him, what's going on. And I read that they're actually kind of parodying the fetish for underage schoolgirls in Japan, and so, depending on how your personal morals are, is how you're going to feel about it. I knew it was fiction, so it didn't bother me, but I'm one of those kind of people, I don't let those things like freak me out. But so, um, they become friends, and she just is just always happy and excited and hyper. And she says, I want you to kill me. I want you to be the one to repeat kill me. And you don't know what's happened to her family, if she's an orphan or what. But so they go and they buy these weapons. They've made these special weapons, the military and the government, and they're called the Bruce Campbell right arm tube chainsaws. And but they also call them Blues Campbell because of the LR pronunciation with Japanese names. Like an L can be sounded out as an R, or R as an L. So sometimes it's Bruce Campbell or Blues Campbell. It's about the same. It actually says on this chainsaw Blues Campbell in English. And basically it's just like the one he has, except this one, of course, you don't have to cut your hand off. It fits like a glove over their hand up to their wrist. And then they can just do that like this. And then they give them to people or sell them to people to dispatch their children when they become Stacy's. So this girl buys this man a gift, and he's like dreading it. And it's one of those chainsaws. And she's like, oh, I want you to be the one to do it. And we get into this guy more than any other character for some odd reason. It's just, in a movie like this, you wouldn't think there'd be like these kind of points where it stops and becomes like super dramatic, but it does. They show one of his puppet shows. He's a sculptor and a puppeteer, and his puppet show is this little boy. He loses his cat, and he goes away, and his mom is supposed to take care of the cat. The cat runs away, and then his arm falls off. One of his legs falls off. Of course, I don't know what happens to the cat literally, but the little puppet loses a leg, and so he goes away, and he's looking for him everywhere. I forgot his name. It was some like little cute Mittens. That was his name. And he's like, Mittens, where are you? So, and the puppets it's really cool and weird. And the cat's really cute. And so then the cat comes back, and he's got like a prosthetic leg. I mean, it's like a white bandage over the wood. And he's like, oh, Mittens, you're back, and they fixed your hand, and you went away, and we're back together, and that's what matters. And there's this undercurrent of like sadness or weirdness to it. And even though it kind of has a happy ending, and so what it is it's kind of about the relationship between him and Aiko. Is that when she dies, she's gonna come back to him. They're gonna be reunited even though she's dead. But then of course he has to, dispatch her, for good. But before we get to that, which is kind of the tragic ending of the movie, it gets kind of philosophical and very kind of really pretty music done by the screenplay writer. His band was called Tokusatsu, which is a genre of Japanese movies and TV shows. But they go back to the lab and the scientists and the military and all that, and they have all those elements that you see in these films. And it's very similar. It's kind of similar to the ones that you were in, Yvette, where you have that whole thing with the science lab and the military, and you've got all these guys armed, and they're like trying to be gung-ho and kill all the zombies. And one guy keeps asking the people, did you know that right before the Stacys emerged, there were these unsolved murders of these girls between 15 and 17? Do you think there's a connection? Everybody like thinks he's crazy. And the soldiers are gradually losing it. I mean, they're gradually like, well, I guess you could say they're gradually becoming human in the sense that they're like starting to cry and be affected like emotionally, which some people I read thought that was silly, but I actually thought that was pretty unusual in these kind of movies, and maybe could be maybe realistic in some ways. And and then there's one more plot element. There's a group called the Drew Illegal Repeat Kill Squad, and they're named Drew Barrymore's their favorite actress, and so this movie came on not long after her Charlie's Angels, and so there's three of them, and they're all like these beautiful girls, same age, but they're not dressed in the schoolgirl outfits. They're like dressed in all these different colors, and like one has nunchuckers, and one has a machine gun, and one has a samurai sword. And I love these kind of characters, and they're all like funny. And the one in the front with the machine gun, she's got like this dyed punk rock red hair and these tattoos on her face, and they're all just like really hilarious. And basically, you can only legally kill the Stacy if you're the family member or you're a Romero. So they're like an underground. It's like if you can't kill your daughter, we'll do it for you for X amount of money. We're the Drew Illegal Repeat Kill Squad. And so they come in and they like strike, and they like, and they know that they're going to turn too in just a few months, you know. So they're kind of like, before they turn, they want to make a whole bunch of money off of this and have fun, and before they become zombies. So I didn't like the fact they didn't survive to the end of the movie, but they have like a lot of key elements because it starts to get kind of surreal, because the military, they try to like take on the military guys and be like, we're going to catch this. They're trying to catch this one particular zombie. This Momo, it's the other character's aforementioned friend. He finally finds her, and she's of course completely out of it and cannibalistic, and they're trying to control her, and they're like, get out of the way, and we're gonna take her out and get the money from her dad. And the guy who's in love with her, he's like, I finally found her. He's like, she's my lover. And the military guys come in like, this is insane. And so they basically kill the guy, and then they start to have the fight with the squad, and sadly they kill the squad. But then the soldier who's been going on and on about the murders, he starts to like freak out. And then you may have guessed it, he was the murderer himself. And when he has the freak out, all of the three girls who you know are little Drew squad that he's killed, you know, their eyes come open, and you know they start talking to him, and he hears them in his head. You don't know how much of this is literal and how much of it's in his head, but it's really trippy and it's really cool. It's really interesting. And so he like I think he kills himself, you know, fittingly, I guess. And so really not many people get out of that situation alive. You know, there's a lot of little funny subplots, and the Frankenstein doctor's like the last one to go, and he thinks he's found the secret and why they glow. And he said it's because they want love. And he said that's all they want is love. That's why they're trying to devour you, to devour your love. And you know, he's like, this is the secret. Like, what's he gonna do with it? And so when they finally corner him, they all kind of get break out because of the kid who was looking for Momo, and they all, you know, swamp him. A typical kind of Romero scene. They're all getting ready to tear him apart, but he's all happy. He's like, no one ever loved me in my life. My daughter hated me. He's like, but you, all of you love me, and I love you. And so they're like ripping him apart. It's very graphic, but he's like smiling and grinning like an idiot, you know. And so then you have the wrap up with the puppeteer and his girl when she kind of transcends, and then they tack on this weird epilogue where it's like after a while the Stacys stop killing people, and this takes place, by the way, over decades. Like, and they talk about how it's changed the entire planet. Like the population's been reduced to like almost half of what it was. We're just seeing the Japanese part of it. And they say that the Stacys began finding love with men who loved them, and then they were actually able to, so they don't show them, they're actually able to breed children, and their children was a new race that were evolving humanity. And I didn't know how to take the ending, and some people said they felt like it was either justifying or making fun of people who justify pedophiles who do like those young girls, you know, like by saying, oh yeah, in their little fantasy world now it's legal, now it's okay for them to be with them and mate with them and do whatever. while making it clear that it's not okay at the same time. So, but you don't really see what the new mutant children look like. I was a little disappointed, but it was weird. And I mean, it had this incredible music, and it was shot on video, and it looked great though. For 2001 to be shot on video, it would look fantastic. And it's just like got all this stuff going on. And yeah, I mean, I just saw this last night. I could like, it's one of those movies like I watched it and it just totally held my attention because I had no idea what was going to happen next, and they probably didn't know either when they were making it, and just kept throwing things at the wall. But it obviously had an intelligence to it, and I guess really some heart to it, and it has tons of gore, and some of it's pretty gross, and a lot of it's very fake. But and even the fake stuff though is kind of nasty ideas, like a head, and like the whole spinal column is like a spiral that's been torn out of the body, and that kind of stuff. And just about
Did
anything
you
that you can imagine, they try to pull it off. They don't necessarily do, but
do you think that there are things like you may want to watch it again that may be something you missed? Or
oh,
do you think you got it kind of locked down?
I was afraid to review it right offhand because I was
Hmm.
like, "There's too much going on. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
going to be wrong." So I read these reviews, and then I read the summary in Wikipedia and IMDb, sorry, and it was
Hmm.
exactly everything I just told y'all. So it's like I was on the right track. What I did learn is that the reaction people had to it, and I knew most people hated it. That's true. Most people hated it. It's considered kind of a cult classic now, and I remember when it came out, on DVD in America. It was around the same time as Junk, which was another Japanese zombie movie. It was shot on
Hmm.
video with a female protagonist, totally different plot, more serious movie. And I had no idea really what it was going to be like. I thought it was going to be about one zombie girl named Stacy, and it's whatever. But it's not that at all. It's just like a term. Um, but it's based on a novel. The guy who co-wrote the screenplay and whose band played the music, he wrote the novel, and they based it on the novel. I have no idea what the novel's like, and but I got so tired of going through IMDb because everybody was giving it 3 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 1 out of 10. And people just mindlessly review movies like this, like the worst crap I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, you really haven't seen much stuff, man. You really haven't.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
worst movie ever. And it's just like what Bill was saying about Ed Wood. It's like there are much worse directors than Ed Wood who are making a lot of money right now. And he so I read the reviews, and finally it came up to like a 7 out of 10 and a 9 out of 10. And the 9 out of 10 guy really like analyzed it psychologically, and at the end he said, I may be wrong about all this, maybe it is just exploitation, maybe I'm reading things into it. And I was like, so he's kind of hedging his bets, like just in case. But I thought all his points were very resonant with what I was feeling by the end of the movie, because I really was just going with the movie. But when it got to the end of Aiko's death, and they start playing the band playing this piano music and all this philosophical stuff, and the wandering puppet and his tragic cat story, I was like, this is a bit deeper though than you would think it was. So that's what I love about non-Hollywood movies, is you're going to find stuff that's just not the same structure, not predictable. You don't I get all excited when I find movies like that, even if I end up not liking them or a lot of them. This one I did like. I loved the callbacks. I thought they were very funny, a lot of funny dialogue. I think and it's funny because I was guessing this came out in 2001, so I bet Bruno would have liked this movie. Yvette, it really had that kind of throwing all these ideas into one movie, which I thought the zombies at the beginning just kept getting more far out. Like the further you went into that installation, different, you keep meeting more and more different zombies until there's the big thing where they're creating the zombies and impregnating the women with the fluid, and it just gets crazier and crazier. And Yvette's character burns it all down because they're going to conquer the world. It is so awesome. I love
Sounds like fun.
it. Well, she said it was fun to make, so I take her word for
Yeah, it is.
it. That is so awesome. So, listen, guys, we're going to wrap up, and I want to thank Yvette for hanging out with us and being a guest panelist. We're really honored to have
Thank
you,
you.
and of course, you're welcome back
Thanks for that.
anytime you want. So, I will talk to you soon. And Nick,
Yes.
thanks for joining us, and Justin Briggy, and everybody
Of
watching.
course.
Remember to like and subscribe, please. We really need it. We need the help. We need the support. So hang in there.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Hi, you've been watching Deep Images, our series on zombies, and this is our first session with Yvette Izan, star of Island of the Living Dead and Zombies: The Beginning, as our special guest panelist. We hope you'll stay tuned for the upcoming installments in this series. And in the meantime, please remember to, well, I'll let my co-host tell you what you.
Well, like, subscribe, and share, please. I have no shame about asking people to like, subscribe, and share because, we are an independent community here. We're doing everything ourselves, and let's just do our bit to spread the love and the beautiful time that everybody has taken to research these movies and bring them to you. So yeah, we do everything with love, but so that's what we'd like you to share with love as well. So thank you.
We appreciate you watching. Okay.
Desires, breathing in fire, looking ablaze, fueling my last days. No reason, consistent treason, no right to live. Could you forgive?